Now, we've obviously got lots of viewers watching today. Maybe there's somebody out there who would like to get to know God, start a relationship with God. John, could you share some steps on how somebody could go about doing that?
Well, I think it depends where people are starting from. And in the world today, a lot of people have absolutely no knowledge on which to react. And so what I suggest, first of all, is that if people want to get to know if these things are true, they need to start reading and getting into one of the Gospels, say the Gospel of John or the Gospel of Luke, and to ask their questions as they go along. I think this is absolutely crucial. I spent most of my life playing Socrates and asking questions. And the thing to do is to get into something and ask the questions as you go along, because many of our reasons for rejecting God are result from simple ignorance. We do not know what Christianity claims. For instance, I meet many people who say, well, of course, you couldn't trust the Bible because it's utterly unreliable historically. And I say, what have you read on that topic? Well, nothing. Well, of course not, because if you read something on that topic, you'll find that's simply not true.
Yeah.
And a lot of things can be cleared up by reading. And the difficulty is that you're asking me a generic question, but there are no generic questioners that I've ever met. There are people with specific needs and specific interests. And so start reading a gospel, but then start talking to people who you know are Christians and finding out what makes them tick. And don't be content with superficial answers. And one gradually gets the evidence and it builds up. And I'm speaking to you on my 52nd wedding anniversary. And so the analogy is very true. One gets to know a person and one gets to see that they're trustworthy and falls in love with them. And then comes the point, am I going to commit myself? And that's a step of the will. And we all understand that in the context of marriage, but it's exactly the same with God, because the important thing is that God is not a theory. He's a person. Jesus is a person, and God becomes human like ourselves to show us exactly what he's like. And therefore there comes a point where we need to face two things. One, the mess we've made of our own lives and maybe those of others, unfortunately. And we need to repent of that. That is, change our minds about it and agree that it's absolutely wrong and ask God's help to deal with it. And then to trust him for forgiveness and salvation. And one of my major reasons for believing in Christianity is this works. You see, Christianity is testable. That's another good science word. And many people say to me, well, how can you be a Christian and a scientist since Christianity is not testable? And I say, where did you get that today? Of course it's testable. Jesus claimed that if people repent and trust him as Lord, they receive forgiveness. Does that mean anything to you? They receive peace with God. They receive a new life. They receive a new power to live that life. And when you've seen, as I have done, and no doubt you have done, people at their wits' end, and you meet them 6 months later and you say to them, what's happened to you? And they say, well, I met Jesus, or I was born again, or I became a Christian. And you see new joy in their life. Alcohol has been replaced by food. Broken relationships have been mended. And they've got a whole different attitude and meaning in life. You can put 2 and 2 together and make 4 and say, well, there's something in this. It actually works. So I'm a Christian for many reasons, some of them intellectual, some of them experiential. But in the last analysis, for me, when trusting Christ has worked in my family and in my relationships. So here I am at this advanced age, more committed than ever I was, because God has done exactly what he promised to do.